A cardja agus a cumráidethe, tá méid balla anseo inniu, ag cibhnú ar na daoine a forbás ar Stadgocras in 1981. Cúigus trucha bliain ó hin. Is ginórmí cumá ar na daoine as Chorcaí a forbás ar Stadgocras. Cuid a cú atá cura anseo san relag seo os Argór. Tréalach Magsúna, Dennis Barry, Michael Fitzgerald, Joe Murphy, and Andy Sullivan, who was interred in Mallow. And we remember all the hunger strikers down through the generations. Those who died on hunger strike and who were force-fed and who died afterwards, including Thomas Ashe, Tony Darcy and Tony McNeil in Portlaoise in the 40s, and the many, many others who died after suffering on hunger strike during the 20s and in the prisons down through the generations. When we think about the hunger strikers, the first person that comes to mind is Bobby Sands. Because Bobby Sands became the icon, the voice of the hunger strikers and the voice of the struggle in 1981. But Bobby Sands spoke for all the hunger strikers, for Francis Hughes, for Raymond McCreish, for Patsy O'Hara, for Joe MacDonald, for Martin Hurson, for Kevin Lynch, for Kieran Doherty, for Thomas McElwee and Michael Devine. He spoke for all of them, and he personified everything that they were. And one of the things that we need to remember, and I'm just going to read an extract from Bobby Sands' diary, is that when we talk about political prisoners, and when we talk about people who fight in the struggle, we are talking about people who are ordinary men and women, the sons and daughters of people who live in local communities. So the first and foremost, the struggle for them was a very personal one as well. And Bobby Sands mentioned, "I am standing on the threshold of another trembling world. May God have mercy on my soul. My heart is sore because I know that I have broken my poor mother's heart, and my home is struck with unbearable anxiety. But I have considered all the arguments and tried every means to avoid what has become the unavoidable. It has been forced upon us." And I think we should always remember that first and foremost we are talking about people who make a huge decision, which is probably the hardest decision that anybody will ever make when they decide to join the struggle, particularly when they head off an active service or head into a hunger strike. Because the first people who suffer are the families. And we need to be eternally grateful to his family and all the other families who stood by them through what was a really tough and enduring, heartfelt period. But Bobby Sands had considered everything. We're in the 1916, the 100th anniversary of 1916, and none of that was lost in Sands either, because he too in the same diary mentions the right of the Irish people to assert their rights and self-determination through the force of arms. That's important because as we move through the decades of commemoration, many revisionists will try to rewrite his words and his vision. The most recent one, if anybody has seen the documentary 66 Days, is Fintan O'Toole attempts to do just that. But he failed because Sands' words and his deeds and his sacrifice rises above any criticism or any attempt to revise it. And Sands was a child of history, born of a state that was born in protests and forced upon the Irish people. It was a legacy of second-class citizenship, of the denial of basic rights, the rights to self-determination, and to be seen as a citizen equal to all others in society. The partition state was the antithesis of all of that. And Sands knew it. But he also knew that what he was fighting was something bigger than any prison protest. He saw the context, and context is everything. The British government thought they had the Irish Republican Army almost defeated in the late 70s. It had embarked on a process of criminalising the prisoners, the criminalisation policy. It also sought to normalise the situation in the 6 counties, the normalisation policy, which would mean that they were no longer dealing with political prisoners but ordinary criminals. That the forces of the 6 county state, in the guise of the RUC at the time, would represent the British state in the 6 counties, and that they would be fighting what was essentially a policing battle. And they also sought to ulsterise the campaign and their occupation, to take it off the world stage, to make it something which they had worked on for decades and generations before, when they partitioned the country, but also when they planted the settlers in the northeast of the country. They sought to work on those divisions which they had carefully fostered, as they mentioned in the proclamation. They sought to exploit those divisions to suit their own policy, but they failed. And they failed very simply because Sands and the hunger strikers knew, as he said himself, that what was lost for the Republic, what is lost here, will be lost for the Republic. So he knew what he was up against. And it takes a brave man indeed. And there were 10 of them, and many others behind him. But it takes a brave man indeed to go into something when you know what you're up against. And when you think of what he was up against in terms of British government policy, the apparatus of the state, a compliant media, censorship, and the forces of British imperialism in all its guises, their secret service, their UDR, their RUC, their loyalist state squads, everything was lined up against the hunger strikers. But they also had allies here in the 26 counties, in government and in the media. And Sands blew that myth about the unthinking terrorist out of the water, because he exemplified and he articulated what republicanism really meant. He had a vision that went beyond the prison cell, the dirty protest and the hunger strike. But he also had a loyalty to comrades, and he knew that only by sticking together could Republicans defeat the enemies before them in all their guises. And his commitment to his comrades, and again, let's remember, they were forced into a hunger strike because they were giving no way out. But that was British policy, was to back them, put their backs to the wall. And he saw that, and he knew that whatever he did and whatever happened on that hunger strike would impact on the struggle ever forth. And he knew that British policy could be broken on the back of the prison struggle, which is exactly the opposite of what the Brits thought, because they thought by breaking the prisoners that they could break the struggle. But Sands knew different, and his comrades knew different. And instead of ulsterising the problem, instead of defeating republicanism, instead of normalising the situation in the 6 counties, the hunger strike raised it to a plane never seen before since Terence McSweeney died after 74 days on a hunger strike in Brixton Prison. It raised it on a plane on an international stage, and it showed to the world that the British presence here was anything but benign. It was malign. It was like a malignant cancer dividing people on this island and destroying the fabric of unity and everything positive that would flow from that. And Sands knew this. So he put it on a stage, and he became a Republican icon, not by choice, but because it was forced upon him. but it shows the exceptional nature of the individual when an ordinary person, motivated by politics, understanding what needs to be done to ensure that equality becomes the daily experience of all the citizens of the country. And he gave us a legacy, because history has a tendency to repeat itself. And like the convergence of all things that made its way onto the stage in the 1916, in the run-up to the 1916 Rising, the aftermath was something that history and the British establishment would never forget. Because as Republicans rose in strength after the 1916 Rising, so too did Republicans after the 1981 Rising. Instead of ulsterisation, Thatcher and her government brought a renewed strength to the IRA, and they brought their campaign to the streets of the British capital. And from that came negotiations. And from that also came an opportunity for every single individual, because Sands also had this foresight, as he said himself, everybody has a part to play. No part is too large or too small. And this is probably his greatest legacy to all of us, because he opened the door for all those who would not be able to partake in an armed struggle. He gave everybody an opportunity on this island to stand forth and to assert the right of the Irish people, of their neighbours, of their friends, of their families, to have a health service that would meet their needs at the point of entry, that would have an education system that would foster the talents of everybody and not leave anybody behind, that would produce an economic system that would work for everybody and not just the elites in Apple and elsewhere. He saw that, and he had that vision, and he gave us an opportunity. And he gave us an opportunity as people to stand forward as leaders of the Republican struggle. And today that falls on our elected representatives and all our membership across the state and across the 6 counties and across the world as it stands right now. He gave us an opportunity to do what he did, but in a different way. Not just to become leaders, but to lead by example. To see beyond the individual and personal, to look at the political and look at the bigger picture, and to know that it's not simply all about us as individuals, but that as individuals working collectively in our communities and with our comrades in struggle, that we can make a difference and that we can make change in a way that nobody can stop. Because there is nothing as strong as an idea whose time has come. And like I said earlier, history is moving on. There is a momentum with us across the island. Britain is on its knees. It is fighting now as it Brexits out of Europe. And that is an opportunity for others to see what is possible for them. The Scots see it. Even people in the 6 counties who would never have voted for us have seen it. We see it, and we know it to be true. That if we can see that we are stronger together, regardless of our backgrounds and religion, race or whatever, that we as a people can achieve the objectives that Sands and his comrades fought and starved to death for in 1981. So when the hunger strikes ended, that legacy was what was left to us. It is now our responsibility. It is the responsibility of our elected representatives to show leadership, to encourage others, to show by example just what a Republican is and what it means. So we have to go away from here today, renewed by the struggle that has gone before us, encouraged and inspired by the sacrifice of Sands and the hunger strikers, of Mac Sweeney and all those who went before. And we have that opportunity to encourage others to join with us, to enable them to come to us, to fight with us in the struggles that are coming, because we do have a lot to fight going ahead. We are into the decade of centenaries, and the revisionists will be coming and working off the pages and through the TV screens, and we must be prepared for them too. So we have to show that the legacy of Sands continues, that the struggle will never be criminalised, that republicanism will never be defeated. Gurdy Míle Maithagah.